everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am super excited to share with all of you a side-by-side comparison of the old Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation next to the brand new Makeup Forever HD Skin Foundation, which is replacing that formula. In addition, I'll also be sharing with all of you my first impressions of the new Natasha Denona I Need a Rose lipstick. I have this in the shade Calla. So if you guys are interested in learning more about any of these products, then just stick around. So I've been seeing a lot of videos on YouTube comparing these two products, and so I was really excited when Sephora had these samples available of the new HD Skin Foundation. So I actually picked up a full size of the Ultra HD foundation back towards the end of last year when they were having a lot of sales on this product. At the time, I didn't realize they were actually about to discontinue it. So I picked this up in the shade Y255. And for the sample of the HD skin, I have this in the shade 1N14, which is supposed to correspond to Y245. So hopefully these will be similar shades. So just to show you guys the old foundation, it came in this hard plastic bottle. Not super luxurious, but this was a really popular foundation for a long time, which is why I think there have been so many videos comparing the new one to the old one, because for a lot of folks, this was a holy grail foundation. I have seen and felt the new bottle in stores, and it is far more luxurious. It has an actual glass bottle, so definitely on the packaging side, the new foundation wins out. But today I'm really curious to see how these two compare from a formulation perspective. So to start out, let's go in with the old foundation, and this is in a pump form. You can see that it's sort of a medium viscosity, not totally liquid, but pretty loose. And I'm going to apply this to the right side of my face. So my history with this foundation is that I actually first tried it in one of those blister packets where you get a few different shades. And I didn't really think that much of it when I tried it. I had heard good things about the foundation, but normally when I try new foundations in those blister packets, I'm not necessarily that impressed. But I was really impressed by my first impressions of this foundation. I think actually I was filming that day, so I think it was my October favorites from last year, in case you're curious. And this foundation just had such an interesting formulation. So you can maybe see this as I'm putting it on right now, but one layer looks very seamless on the skin. When you first look at it, it almost looks like you don't have any foundation on. Like when I look at myself in the mirror right now, I really can't tell that I have any foundation. That said, if you compare the two sides of my face right now, this side definitely looks way more perfected than this side over here. And so when I first put this foundation on, I thought that it was a very, very low coverage foundation because I couldn't really see anything on my face. But after putting a couple layers on and also seeing how it wore over the day, I was just really impressed by how it had a really nice effect on the skin. And especially if you use a concealer to cover up your blemishes, then you won't have any problems really in the coverage department. But it looks just so undetectable on the skin. And so that's what really sold me on this and made me want to buy a full bottle of it. So now I'm just patting in that second layer. And I think you can see again that now it is very, very perfected on this side. Of course, the coverage is not super high, so you can still see, for example, this blemish that I have over here and some of the texture over here. So normally I would go in with a little bit of concealer to cover those up, but I think if you use this foundation all over the face and then put some concealer over where you have blemishes, it's an incredibly natural looking finish. You really can't tell that you have foundation on. So that's the major selling point of this Ultra HD foundation. So I'm really curious to see how the HD skin compares. So this is what the little sample looks like. Obviously the full-size bottle looks totally different. One thing I will note though, just looking at these at the moment, is that the sample looks way, way, way lighter than my full size, even though this is supposed to be Y255 and this is Y245. So they're not supposed to be that different, but I think as you can see here, they look like totally, totally different shades. So that is a little bit concerning. This might be a little light on me, but we'll try to make it work. Oh wow, it actually has a little pump even though this is the sample size, so that's pretty nice. So let me just pump this out. Alrighty, so here it is, and already I think you can see that it is a totally different texture than the previous formulation. This is much more thick. It's not running down my hand at all, so that's quite interesting. And it definitely looks a bit lighter. I will do a swatch a little bit later in this video. But let's see, hopefully this still works on my skin, and if not, I'll have to call in some reinforcements in the bronzer department. But yeah, totally different texture on the skin, much thicker. And for this side, I'm gonna use the butt of my beauty blender so we don't accidentally mix the two products. Alrighty, as I'm blending this in, I can definitely tell that it looks very different from the other side. I mean, part of it I think is the shade being a bit light for me, but in general, it is not undetectable on the skin at all. You can definitely tell that I have some foundation on this side. Alright, so here is one layer down, and again, I am a little bit annoyed about this shade difference situation because I feel like it's making it harder to directly compare these two. But definitely on this side, it has done a decent job of blurring things out. Again, you can still see my blemish, so it's not at all a high coverage formulation. But I feel like it's a lot less skin-like in appearance in comparison to this side over here. On this side, again, I really don't feel like it looks makeup-y at all, whereas on this side, the formulation just feels a little bit drier and thicker, and so I feel like I can see it on my face a lot more. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but let's try to go in with one more layer, see how this builds. And this shade issue I'm having, I have seen some other folks on YouTube experience as well, where they got the shade that they previously used in the Ultra HD, but this new one was quite different in shade. So that is one thing to watch out for. You might want to go in store to be shade matched instead of just using whatever shade you previously had. So with two layers on both sides, I would definitely say that at least upon initial application, I'm liking the old formulation, the Ultra HD, way better than this new HD Skin. I mean, they both look pretty good, and I think from a distance, at the moment, they look the same. But when I look really close up, I feel like this side just looks way more natural and skin-like. I'm not really seeing any cakiness or anything that looks obviously like makeup. Whereas on this side, I feel like in the areas where I have some texture, there is a little bit more settling into my fine lines, and there's a certain thickness on the face, which makes sense when you look at the formulation of the new one. It's a lot thicker in texture in comparison to the old one, but I am a little bit disappointed with how it's looking at the moment. Like especially around this corner of my mouth. I don't know if you guys will really be able to pick up on camera, but it looks kind of crusty already, which is pretty bad given that I just applied this. Whereas on this side, it looks more like it's just kind of settled into my skin. So that's not the best. And I see a similar dynamic around my nose where on this side, it's looking a little thicker and cakier, whereas on this side, it's a lot more natural. And let me also just turn down the brightness in case that helps. So again, here's sort of the problem area on this side, and also this nose area in comparison to this side, which I think looks a lot better. And here are the two formulations side by side. So the first one, which is the deeper one, is the Ultra HD, and you can see it's starting to run down my arm, whereas the HD Skin is lighter and much thicker, so it's not running at all. And here they are blended out, just so you can see that very stark shade difference. It's going to be interesting to see if these oxidize at all to look more similar, because at the moment they look extremely, extremely different. And I'm just going to use some of that extra foundation in the under eye area, since when I do my wear tests, I usually don't go in with any concealer or powder, just because I don't want my impression to be influenced by how the product interacts with other complexion products. The other thing I am noticing is the HD Skin in general seems to be a bit of a fuller coverage formula. So I think you can really see that from when I was putting on that product on my eyes. Like this side was much fuller coverage than this side over here. In general, the HD skin is just much thicker in every way. So I went off camera to finish off the rest of my face. Today's look is a little bit experimental, so I'm not really sure yet how I feel about it. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this look. And of course, as always, I'll link in the description box all the products that I have on my face. So to finish off this look, let's go into this brand new Natasha Denona I Need a Rose lipstick. So this is the packaging that it comes in. Nice and reflective, and the color of the box is the same as the shade of the lipstick. And Calla corresponds to 12.5 NB. I think NB stands for neutral beige. And here is the lipstick component, very beautiful and reflective. And overall, this packaging is pretty similar to what she used for her I Need a Nude lipsticks. The main difference is that for the I Need a Rose set, the component is the same color as the lipstick, whereas for the I Need a Nude, they were mostly this white shade with the exception of Amorosa, which you can see was a Valentine's Day color. So now let's open this up. So it is a magnetized enclosure, and this is what the untouched bullet looks like. So it says ND on it. And here is a swatch of Calla. It's honestly looking a little bit more pinky than what I anticipated, since this one is supposed to be a brown rose. This is also a brand new formulation from Natasha Denona, which I could tell just from swatch. It seems a little bit more sheer and a little bit more hydrating potentially. So it'll be interesting to see how this wears on the lips. So now let me put this on. It has a very strong birthday cake fragrance right when you open the bullet. Alrighty, so here we have Calla on the lips, and I think I went over my lips maybe 2 to 3 times. So this is definitely a much thinner formula than her I Need a Nude formula. With that formula, it's completely opaque upon one swipe. This one you do need to go over a couple times to get this level of opacity. In addition, the formula is a lot more shiny than her previous ones. So as you can probably tell, even just from looking at the bullets, the new formula definitely has a lot more of a shine to it in comparison to the old formula. You can also probably see that in these swatches here. So Calla is here, then we have Amorosa and Sami. And so you can see that Amorosa and Sami have much more of a soft satin matte finish, whereas Calla has a little bit more dew and shine to it. Upon initial application, I would say the formula feels pretty comfortable overall, but I don't think this is going to be as hydrating and comfortable as a lot of my other lipsticks. I can already feel in the center of my lips a little bit of drying and puckering. That is a problem I've had with her previous lipsticks as well, so I was hoping that this formulation would be a lot more comfortable than her previous formulas. At least upon initial impression, I would say that it does have a much different finish, so a much dewier, more reflective finish, but I'm not feeling like my lips are a lot more hydrated. When I do the wear test update though, at the end of this video, I'll also give you guys an update on how this lipstick is feeling. In terms of the shade, at least on my yellow undertone skin, this is coming across a lot more cool-toned mauvey pink than what I was anticipating. I was thinking that this would be a pretty warm brown, and looking at other people's videos, I really had the impression that this would be much more nude on me. It's still a really pretty shade, and I really like how it's looking. But I did want to mention that in case you have a similar skin tone undertone to me, this might come across a lot less brown rose and a lot more mauvey pink. Turn down the brightness for a second, just so you guys can see those colors a little bit better. So overall, I would say upon initial impression of all these products, I am not very happy with the reformulation so far. Don't get me wrong, I think it looks really good, and now especially that I've finished off my face, the two sides don't look so dissimilar. But I still do think the original Ultra HD side just looks a lot more natural and less makeup-y. In terms of Natasha's new formulation, I would say that it's just okay to me upon initial impressions. I was really hoping that this formula would improve upon some of the things I didn't like about the I Need a Nude line. For that line, I found that the lipsticks just weren't hydrating enough on my dry lips. But even though this new formulation is supposed to be a lot more hydrating, it's not feeling that hydrating, at least upon initial application, which does not bode well because usually things just get drier as the day wears on. But I'm going to try not to prejudge, so I will be back later today with a wear test update about these products. And here we have the oxidation test. So both of the old and the new formulations did oxidize a bit. So here is a fresh swatch of the old Ultra HD formulation next to the dried swatch. So you can see that it definitely got a decent amount deeper as it dried down. Similarly, here is a swatch of the new formulation next to a dried version of it. I would say the new formulation maybe oxidized slightly less in comparison to the old formulation, so that might be one plus in terms of the new formulation. Overall though, compared to a lot of the other foundations I've been trying out recently, I will say this formulation has done pretty poorly on the oxidation test. So here we are at the end of the wear test. It's been 8 to 9 hours since I first put these foundations on my face. And other than reapplying the lipstick a couple times, I have not touched my face at all. So let me bring you guys closer so we can really inspect the two sides of my face. So first off, overall, I would say both foundations actually fared pretty well. And at this time of the day, I don't see as much difference between them as I saw at the beginning of the wear test. Also, I'll say both of them have done a pretty good job overall in terms of oil control. Usually by this time of the day, I am pretty glowy, especially if I've gone out and done a workout like I did today. So with these foundations, there's definitely a lot more shininess, especially in my T-zone area compared to when I first applied them. But on the whole, they're looking pretty good. So now going into the differences, overall, I think that the Ultra HD side still does look a little bit more natural and skin-like. When I look at the HD skin side, it is more obvious to me that I'm wearing foundation. This is especially true in this area of my face in comparison to this area of my face. That said, the HD skin side does look like it has a tad bit more coverage and perfecting in comparison to the Ultra HD side. So I think if you're looking for some more coverage, the HD skin might be able to provide that. The one other thing I noticed is that I did put on sunglasses for a while today. And when I removed the sunglasses, a big chunk of the HD skin foundation came off. You might be able to see some of that over here. Whereas on the Ultra HD side, it didn't look as obvious once I removed the sunglasses. On the whole, I do think it's too bad that they have discontinued the Ultra HD foundation. Ultimately, I think these two foundations are quite different in terms of the purpose they serve. The Ultra HD foundation really stood out to me as a very unique formula. It's just way less detectable on the skin in comparison to my other foundations. And so for me, I really like it on days when I really want my foundation not to be obvious and I want it to look like I have no makeup, but still have a certain level of perfection that skin tints won't offer. I feel like the HD Skin Foundation is trying to be more of a typical medium coverage foundation. It's a lot more similar to the other foundations in my collection in that it is pretty perfecting, but it's still pretty obvious when you look up close that you have foundation on. So personally, I would say that if you already have the Ultra HD foundation and are wondering whether these two formulas are the same, they definitely aren't. They are performing a very different purpose. That said, if you want something more like the HD Skin that is providing more perfection and coverage, I would steer you more towards some of my other favorite foundations, such as the Lisa Eldridge one. I think that that one is still a little bit better than this one in terms of looking really seamless on the skin. And hopefully someday Makeup Forever might come out with another version of the Ultra HD foundation that is more of this truly undetectable finish. since the original formula is just so different from anything else I've tried on the market. Moving now to the Natasha Denona lipstick. This one actually surprised me quite a bit, since when I first put it on, I could already feel it drying out my lips a little bit, and so I thought that this would be a major no-go. I thought that it would just get worse as the day progressed. But actually, surprisingly, I found that for this lipstick, after that initial drying period, it actually felt super comfortable. So that was a little surprising to me because typically lipsticks just get more uncomfortable over time. This one definitely didn't get more hydrating over time, but it got more comfortable. It was like it sort of shrunk down a little bit on my lips and was slightly uncomfortable at first, but then it just had this film over my lips that kept them feeling really comfortable throughout the day. So I'll have to keep wearing this lipstick and update you guys in my next monthly favorites, but at least upon this initial wear test, I would say that it actually is pretty comfortable overall, and definitely much more comfortable than her I Need a Nude line. So if you feel like that line is already super comfortable, then I think you'll really enjoy the feeling of this one. If you felt like her previous line was a little bit drying, you might want to try this out, since I do think it is more hydrating on the whole. That said, I'm still not a huge fan of that initial dry down period. I feel like for a lot of my other lipsticks, they're just comfortable from the get-go the moment you apply them. So the jury is still out on this lipstick. So that's it for today's video. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I would love to hear in the comments below if you guys have tried any of these products, either the old formulation or the new formulation. If so, I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!